Kat sat alone on her couch, shoveling popcorn into her mouth. She stared at her TV, tied to the suspense of the movie. The sky darkened as the sun approached the horizon. Hidden behind the ocean of trees her house lay among. One lone tree stood in the center of her yard, visible through the living room window. A menacing presence filled the area yet to make itself known. Kat was glued to her movie, but still able to catch a glimpse of the black object aimed at her door. Thud! Kat jumped, startled by an unexpected disturbance, spilling the popcorn. What the hell? She whimpered, approaching the door. The doorknob was cold in her hand, her heart pounded in her chest. The hinges squeaked as the door creaked open. A rush of cold air washed Kat's face as her eyes scanned the dim yard. Nothing could be seen. Nothing made a sound. She slowly shut the door, then cleaned up the popcorn. She had just sat down when another black object hit her door with a louder thud than before. She looked at the tree in the yard, almost certain she saw what through it. Kat sat there watching the tree, waiting for something to happen. It's just some kids, she thought. Nothing to worry about. She quickly made herself comfortable and began to turn on another movie. Minutes passed and another thud shattered the silence, shaking the door. Kat raced for the lock and quickly shut the blinds. They'll go away, she said, but grabbed a knife to calm her nerves and give her a sense of security. Tap, 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 she heard light pecking on the living room window. The pecking grew louder, faster. She froze there in place, staring at the windows as the tapping became more profound. She was afraid to investigate, but brave enough to stand her ground. Her home was small and every hiding place would be too predictable. Besides, she didn't want to hide. She wanted to see it coming instead of cowering in fear. The tapping suddenly stopped. Kat slowly made her way to the door and put her back to it. A shadow eclipsed the light from the window atop the door. She stood just out of sight, holding her breath. With her back pressed against the wood, she could feel it knocking. 3 times softly, Kat could hear the galloping beat of her heart in her head. Her anxiety raised to the peak. 3 more knocks hit the door, harder this time. Let me in, a hoarse whisper slipped through the door and into Kat's ear. She bit her lip, tears filling her eyes. Another 3 knocks erupted, furious now. Let me in, a now angry voice ordered. The knocking didn't cease. It grew harder as the voice grew louder. Let me in! Let me in! The knocking grew so fierce it could have shattered the door. Tears leaked from her eyes. What do I do? She thought. Should I open the door? The knocking was more than she could bear. I know you're in there, Kat, it said. Her stomach twisted, her breath caught in her throat, and tears now streamed down her face. Go away, she shouted, finally. Let me in, it screamed in response. Leave me alone, she cried. The voice and the knocking echoed in her head, making her more nauseous than before. Reaching for the lock hesitantly, she sucked up her tears and held her breath, unlocking the door and throwing it open. Nothing was there. The tree stood in the yard, unmoving. No wind. Nothing. She shut the door, shaking in fear. With the click of the lock, the room grew cold. Goosebumps covered her skin. Thank you for letting me in, a voice whispered behind her. It's late. You shouldn't be up like this. You know, it's not healthy, surrounding yourself in utter darkness with nothing but a dull monitor to illuminate your surroundings. Utterly defenseless. Your internal conscious could already be laughing at me. You could be thinking to yourself that you are entirely aware of where this is going. Well, it's your funeral. I'm here to warn you. In precisely 4 minutes and 13 seconds, something will catch the corner of your eye. You'll turn your head sharply, attempting to focus your vision. Your cat will slink past, waving its tail. Your relief will overcome you as you gently welcome your feline companion into your lap. In exhaustion, the poor animal will collapse, a purr of contentment filling the air. As you continue persuading the internet, you'll notice something strange about your pet. You will look down to notice a note has been tucked into its collar. It's blank. You question this, but return to the internet. Your cat shivers, stretches, and jumps from your lap, scurrying off. The note, which you've conveniently placed next to your computer, begins to bleed with dark ink. You open the crumpled paper, holding it to the light of the monitor. It's then that an illustration of an eye will appear. It's then you'll realize that you don't own a cat. Now this is retribution. If you have any hopes of saving yourself, find a scrap of paper, draw the eye, turn off your monitor, surround yourself by darkness. Don't you dare close your eyes, blink, and this will all be for naught. You will be dead before you even felt your eyes close. Kneel, fold the illustration and place it within arm's reach of you. By now you should feel it on you. The eye will be watching. It will choke your breath. You must try. Utter the following: I can see you. Drop the illustration and return to your computer. I'm sorry to say the watchful eye will never cease. You will always feel it. It's watching you now. Nice shirt. As I crossed the threshold of the library, I noticed that all sounds of the street had stopped. I shrugged it off as being well soundproofed. I slowly weaved my way through the aisles, finding nothing that drew my attention. As I drew deeper into the depths of the building, the lights grew dimmer until eventually the only light came from the candles and brackets along the wall. The books grew darker too, though not in the same sense. They grew more arcane. Scared, I turned around to leave. I walked briskly back the way I came, but the overhead lights never returned. I retraced my steps and took different turns, all to no avail. Was that movement? My gaze tracked to the end of the aisle that I was in and saw a shape moving slowly away from me. I chased after it, calling out. As I got closer, the shape sharpened into that of a man. I asked him breathlessly how to get out of the library. He didn't move. Then, out of nowhere, he whipped his head around. I only caught a glimpse of his face before I threw my arms up to protect my own, and he bit me. Caught my arm good. Down I went, and scrambled away from him. I managed to find my footing and ran like hell. My lungs felt like they were about to burst when I finally stopped. I had no idea where I was. I was scared and exhausted. Before I knew what I was doing, I lay down and went to sleep. I would love to give you a time when I awoke, but I don't know for sure. I had lost all sense of time. I dragged my aching body to my feet and stumbled down the hallway. I noticed it getting brighter, the books more lighthearted. I looked up and saw an ancient light bulb. I started to run down the hall, glancing upwards as I ran. The lights grew brighter until I caught a glimpse of the doors. I ran towards them. Freedom, so close I could taste it. As I stepped up to the doors, they stayed still. They didn't open. I reached my fingers into the crack in the doors and tried to pry them open. They wouldn't budge. Locked? I thought. But that idea was shattered as an older man walked to the doors and they slid open for him. He threw me a glance and I thought I recognized his face. As he tipped his hat to me and walked out into the world, it hit me. That man in the aisle, he was leaving. I walked to open the doors behind him and tried to walk out. As I strode towards the open doors, I hit something. It was like walking into a wall, but all that was in front of me was air. I hurried to the librarian to ask for help. No matter how loudly I asked, she ignored me. She glanced up once, but it was like she was looking past me, through me. I tried to shove a pile of books over to get her attention, but I couldn't move them. She calmly reached over and picked up the top book. I had to figure out what was going on. She stood up and began to walk away, and I grabbed her arm, pulled her back. Her arm didn't move, but she sort of seemed to be looking for something, and followed where I led. I led her to a table and let her go. She looked at the table and under it, but seemed to decide she didn't find what she was looking for, and went back along her way. So that's my story. I'm still here today. We haven't been busy, but you never know. You may come in sometime looking for a book. I may take your hand and lead you deeper and deeper into the library. You may catch a glimpse of me and ask me for help out of the library. I may just get my freedom at the cost of yours. I'm waiting for you. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.